Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is a paid video for Alex. He writes, "Hey Austin, huge fan of your videos. I think I've watched every single one. Your knowledge, humor, honesty, and occasional adorable family cameos have given me so much joy over the years. I'm writing because I'm going to purchase a Rolex and I wanted to consult you on which watch I should get. I know the market is experiencing a slight downturn and this would be a good time to buy. The top end of what I can spend is 5,000 USD, give or take. I already have a modest watch collection consisting of a Panerai 111, a Cartier Tank Quartz, an Omega Speedmaster Mark 40, and a Swatch System 51. I'm also a wild-looking musician slash filmmaker, just Google me, and I feel like that's a factor. Anyway, would love to hear your thoughts and hope to one day be able to visit Japan and be lucky enough to go watch shopping with you." Absolutely, Alex. If you ever find yourself in Tokyo, let me know. We'll hit the watch shops. It'll be fun. He also writes, "Also, I know you're a musician and I believe your work has something to do with cameras. So I thought I'd link you to some of my work just for fun. Enjoy." And I checked it out. I listened to one of his albums, his music albums, start to finish. Really enjoyed it, and you can check it out. I put the links in the description of this video. And Alex is a really interesting guy. He's a creative guy, clearly, and he's making money from his creativity, and so I think that's pretty cool. And he's not your typical potential Rolex customer, and I think it's going to come into play what kind of watches I'm going to suggest. But first, let's just look at his current collection. Let's go through it really quickly. He's got the Panerai 111. You know, I don't know much about Panerai, but to me that checks off the dive watch box, all right? You know, he would have to put it on a NATO strap or a rubber strap, take it off that leather strap. But, you know, if you really want to go diving with your expensive watch, which, what's the point, right? You could probably do it with this watch. The Cartier Tank, I guess that could serve as a dress watch. Not my style, but to each his own. And the System 51, that's an interesting watch. That line of watches, the System 51s, came out about the time I was getting into watches. I remember Simon Crane picking one up. And I'm kind of surprised I didn't pick one up myself because, you know, when you're looking at the prices of Rolex and Omega, something like a System 51 is kind of like an impulse buy. A lot like this Vostok I'm wearing. And these kind of watches, you know, you shouldn't take them too seriously. They're fun. It's all right to have a few, and I would limit it to a few in your stable. And so I totally get that. And what I think is his best piece, the Speedmaster Mark 40, which I think a lot of people call the triple date. And it's interesting getting this email because not more than a week ago, I was on the internet pricing these and considering buying one. In fact, I think I remember the reference number 3520.50. Black dial, beautiful black bezel. I was just coming off the Casio World Time, packed full of functions, and I thought, you know, I just love all these functions. It would be nice to get them in a mechanical watch. And this is a great watch. You get the day, the date, the month, chronograph. I mean, it's one dial at the 9, which I don't quite understand what that does, but if that's a GMT function, I don't think it is, but if it is, it's got everything. So I was also looking at the 3523.80. That's got a blue dial and a steel bezel. Not crazy about the steel bezel, and I don't think the blue pops. So I like what Alex has, and that's a great watch. It could be a great one watch, great brand. You can buy those watches for, at least in Japan, from 1,200, 300, 400 to, you know, on up, between 1 and 2,000. Great bang per buck. Will I pick one up? We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see. I definitely respect that watch. All right, so let's just forget about the 5,000 USD we have to work with. Let's just imagine a world where money was no object and access to watches at, say, an AD was no object, would I suggest Alex get something like a 5-digit ceramic Rolex, a modern GMT, a Daytona, a sub, something like that? And the answer is no. And I remember thinking about it a while. Why not? Why not? Why would that seem incongruent? Is he not cool enough to pull it off? Quite the contrary. He's actually too cool to pull it off. He is too much of an individual. And I stepped back and it actually revealed something about the current watches in the Rolex line to me. And, on a side note, I think you can love a brand too much. Perhaps I do. And I let things slide with Rolex that I wouldn't let other companies get away with. The fact that they have gotten away from their tool watch heritage, taken a decisive step towards luxury, and their tool watches, their quote professional watches, while they might be able to be used in those situations, are really more blingy homages to their tool watch past. And that's one of the reasons I got into watches, and particularly Rolex, the adventure and what they were. And that's why the 5-digit pre-ceramics spoke to me more, and they still do. And I've been drinking a little of the 6-digit ceramic Kool-Aid lately, and this has kind of put it into perspective, because I think it was Captain Danny who said, it would be laughable to see a Rolex GMT ceramic on the wrist of an astronaut. It would just be ridiculous. Yet the 5-digit pre-ceramic GMTs were, for many years, the unofficial moon watch. Link in the description to an interesting article about that. And I think it's the closer link that the 5 digits have to the original purpose of these professional watches that I was drawn to. And so I'm just going to throw this out, but are these watches really even cool anymore? Why is it that if I were to meet Alex and think, wow, so you're a musician and you're a filmmaker and you've got a interesting look, long hair, and I looked down and I saw a ceramic sub, why would I say, oh, weird, you're a little too cool for that. That's a little too status quo. And it calls into question, are these watches cool? And, it's funny because when you look at these watches, they're technical marvels, and look, they've got their own aesthetic, and you might like it. You might like the pre-ceramics more. And, in and of themselves, it's hard to deny that they are cool, but the total package of the watch on the man, that's what you have to look at. You always hear that the man makes the watch, and I think that's absolutely true. But does a 6-digit ceramic Rolex bring up the typical guy? I look at a guy with a ceramic GMT BLNR Batgirl, and I think to myself, that dude paid a premium for that watch. Or he greased the palms of an AD in the form of jewelry for his wife. He's a big fish. It's so far removed from a pre-ceramic sub on the wrist of Jacques Cousteau. All right? And I question whether, and thanks to Alex for allowing me to see this, whether these watches are indeed cool on the wrist. We're getting into a situation where I feel like the typical wearer is going to be, a guy that gets one of these BLNRs, BLROs, Daytonas, ceramic subs, ceramic whatevers, and he's really happy because he's going to be able to show up at the country club to brag to his friends that, he has this watch, and they have a bunch. And it's just, that's just so far removed from the watches, the professional Rolex watches of, the late 50s, 60s, 70s, before the quartz crisis, when these watches were the best timekeepers and toughest timekeepers you could get. And, it's just, I'm not blaming Rolex. It's the only thing that they can do, because these watches have become status symbols, And like I've said in other videos, truly the day of the professional mechanical tool Rolex watch, it's gone, it's dead, and really they're nothing more than homages to their past. So that's why it wouldn't work. All right, so now that I've said that, how would I go? Should Alex go the 5-digit route? Perhaps he should. Let me just continue on with my thought experiment and say, again, if money was no object, here are some cool, funky watches that I think would be kind of neat to see on his wrist. All right, again, we're not within our 5,000 USD budget, but I just want to throw these out because when he makes it as a director and he has a pocket full of money, he might want to consider these pieces. All right, if he wants to go day date or date just, the wood dials. Funky, cool, all right? Another thing, vintage Milgauss, 1019, for example, late 60s, early 70s. Those are really collectible, interesting, and unique watches. And I think Alex and his work and his look, that would mesh very well. And 5-digit root beer GMT, if he's looking to go two-tone, that's a funky, cool watch as well. And the Explorer 1655, the very first Explorer, those are, I think it would be hard to deny that those watches wouldn't bring up anybody, but they're unique and they're interesting. It takes an interesting person to be drawn, I think, to those watches. Okay, debatable statement probably, but you show me somebody wearing a 1655, you show me somebody wearing a BLNR, which one you probably want to talk watches with. All right, I would probably be drawn to these types of models, but again, they're way out of our price range. Now, you could still go Milgauss, all right, the 11640, all right. I think on the pre-owned market that might be in your budget, Alex. You could go with a really cool discontinued white dial with the orange indices, orange second hand with the lightning bolt. That's a really unique, cool watch. Probably a little thick, maybe a little heavy. You definitely want to try one on first. And I think, Milgausses are kind of cool because of that. I think they're not status quo like, a sub, all right? Obviously a 1655, the very first of the Explorer 2s, really expensive, $25,000. But, something like a white dial Polar or a black dialed 16570 on the used market, I think if prices continue to go down, and apparently they are in the States, you could probably pick one up, and that would give you a GMT function. You've got a couple of black dials. In fact, all of your watches except for the Cartier are black dials. So you might want to go Polar. But again, if you're looking for more unique, I think the black dial is, I don't know, it's just something a little, the Polar is such a go-to among Rolex people that the black is, is a little bit more nonconformist. So, that is an option right there. And you could always go Explorer 36 or 39. I'd be inclined to go 39. I used to be a staunch 36 millimeter, proponent, but I've kind of changed, and I had on a 39 millimeter OP a couple weeks back, and I thought it looked really good. So I think that's a great watch as well. The Explorer, and it's got that connection to Everest, and that's kind of nice. You might think it's kind of boring. I just have to throw that out there. It probably would be in your price range. I if you're leaning towards that, I would be inclined to go with the real Explorer, and that would be an OP39 with a cool dial color. And that's a great watch. You could probably find one at an AD. It would be within your price range more or less. And look, it's always a way to make your money go further to buy on the pre-owned market, but you got to think about things like polishing box and papers, getting a legit piece. You got to think about servicing in the future. There's so many things you have to think about. And look, if you can get within your price range at an AD, a 39 millimeter, say, black dial or white dial, or a purple dial or a blue dial, the indices on the purple and the blue at 369 glow, but the others don't. I think that's weird. I like the balance of the white dial and the black dial. But buying new, you wouldn't have to worry about whether it's a polished or non-polished piece. It's not going to be polished. It's going to be brand new. It's going to be legit servicing. You'll be good. You can take it in water immediately. It's going to run for 10 years, and you could probably find one in an AD. Now, the OPs are a very underappreciated watch, and here's the problem with an OP. People with swivelly bezels and dates, they'll try to alpha male you with your watch, the OP doesn't get the credit it deserves. It's the grandfather of those watches. It's the purest Rolex. And every sub and GMT really owes a nod to the OP. And it truly is the real Explorer, if you know what I mean, right? The Explorer itself is a bit of a homage watch to the OP that was taken up Mount Everest. And so I love the OP. I think that might be the way I would go. If you're okay with time-only watch, you'd have some nice new internals with the 39. If you like the 36, you could go the 36 route. The 369 blue 36 millimeter Oyster Perpetual is great, and that's even more Explorer-esque with that 369 dial. I think they might update that in the future. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's what I might consider if I wanted to go new. And there's a lot to be said for going new, having that Rolex experience. And if you want to go with a watch with more functions, then for your 5,000, you're probably going to want to go pre-owned. And I think there's a lot of bang for a buck in the 16570. A couple of years ago, again, I'll just bring up the no date sub. You could have gotten one. If prices keep going down, you could. But again, subs are pretty cliche, to be honest. I love them, but they're kind of cliche. And of course, GMT Master 2s, price-wise, they're kind of double what you have to work with. And look, you can get pretty much all of that in the Explorer 2. So there's a lot of bang for a buck there. It's a funky watch. And if I rolled up on you and knew you were a musician and a filmmaker, and I looked down and you had on either a white dialed or a black dialed Explorer 2, I think, that's really cool. It's really cool, I'd respect you a lot more than if I saw some, ceramic sub. Hear that lightning and thunder? I think God agrees with me. Thanks for your question, Alex. Really appreciate it. Let me know what you do. Let me just say that before you run out and get a brand new OP, if you rethink it and sell it later, you're probably going to lose money because they're not on the second-hand market the most desirable Rolex out there. Sadly, I think they're a bit, like I said, underappreciated. And when you buy new most of the time, then you're going to lose money. All right, so that would be more of a commitment. But if you were to go, say, the Milgauss route, the 116400 or the 16570 pre-owned, especially if prices go down because of the coronavirus, then once all of this is over, I think prices are going to go back up, and you would be able to flip that watch and not lose a cent. Okay, maybe even you could make money. So that would be safer because if you think, I'm not really sure, I wish I could try one out. Well, that would be a great way to try one out. So that's something to keep in mind. Hey, viewers, let Alex know what you think he should do. And while you're at it, leave a comment, like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.